The first thing nobody tells you is that the closing day doesn't feel the way you thought it would. You imagine something ceremonial, a handshake, a moment. Instead, you sit in a beige office across from a notary you will never see again and you sign your name 47 times on documents that contain sentences you do not fully understand. The attorney says initial here, you initial. He says sign here, you sign. He slides the next page across before the ink is dry on the last one. You drive to the property afterward. You sit in the car outside. The building is not beautiful. It is a 1987 duplex on a street that is not bad and not good. The siding needs painting. One of the gutters is separated from the fascia on the north side. You noticed this during inspection and negotiated $3,200 off the price. You thought you were being smart. You were. You did not yet know how much smarter you still needed to become. You unlock the door for the first time as the owner. The smell is different than it was during the showings. Emptier, more honest. You stand in the kitchen and you think, this is mine, then almost immediately you think, what have I done? That is the first lesson. Ownership begins with doubt, not failure. Doubt, the difference matters. The first thing real estate teaches you is that a number on paper is not a number in your life. You ran the math before you bought, you ran it carefully. Mortgage payment $1,240, rent from the upper unit $1,100, out of pocket $140 a month plus taxes and insurance. You called it house hacking. You had read the term online, it sounded clean, it felt solved. Month 2, the water heater in the upper unit fails. The tenant texts you at 7:14 a.m. on a Saturday. No hot water, you call a plumber. The plumber says $1,850 for the replacement, labor included. You do not have a reserve account yet, you put it on a card. You think this is bad luck. It is not bad luck. It is the first tuition payment in the most expensive education you will ever voluntarily enroll in. By month 6 you have learned what a reserve fund is not theoretically. Physically, you keep $8,000 in an account you do not touch, not for emergencies, specifically for the property, the HVAC, the roof, the plumbing that runs behind walls you cannot see and will fail at a time you cannot predict. You do not earn interest on patience, you earn the ability to absorb what is coming without bleeding. That is the habit, capital discipline. Before real estate you spent what was available. After real estate you began thinking in reserves, in buffers, in planned loss. That thinking does not stay inside the property, it migrates into every financial decision you make afterward. The second thing real estate teaches you is that other people's behavior is a variable you cannot control and must plan for. The tenant in the upper unit is fine for 7 months, then he isn't. He is not malicious, he is just inconsistent. The rent comes on the 7th, then the 12th, then a text saying he needs until the 22nd. You say yes because the conversation of no feels harder than the wait. This is the mistake. You learn the word leverage in a new way, not financial leverage, interpersonal leverage. The moment you allow late to become a pattern, you have communicated that late is acceptable. The tenant did not decide to take advantage of you, you designed the system that made it easy. You send a letter, formal, you feel strange doing it. This is your neighbor technically, you see him on the stairs, you write the letter anyway. Rent is due on the 1st. There is a grace period of 5 days. After that, a late fee of $75. You feel unkind sending it, you send it. The rent arrives on the 3rd of the following month, then the 1st, then the 1st again. The system created the behavior, not the person. This is a lesson that has nothing to do with real estate. You start applying it everywhere, to your business relationships, to the informal arrangements in your life that have been costing you without a name on the cost. You learn that clarity is not cruelty, undefined expectations are the cruelty, they just distribute the discomfort more slowly. The third thing real estate teaches you is that an asset has a cost of ownership that does not appear in the purchase price. The roof is 14 years old when you buy the property. The inspection report says it has 5 to 7 years of useful life remaining. You read this and think 5 to 7 years is not now, you move on. 4 years later you are standing in the lower unit looking at a water stain on the ceiling that appeared after 2 days of rain. The roofing contractor stands beside you. He uses a word you have not heard before, decking. The decking underneath the shingles has compromised sections. This is not a patch job, he gives you a number, $14,400 for a full replacement. You do not panic, this surprises you, a younger version of yourself would have panicked. Instead you open the property reserve account, you have $11,200 in it. you cover the gap on a 0% card and pay it off in 90 days from rental income. The lesson is not that you handled it. The lesson is why you could. You had spent 4 years thinking about the roof even when you weren't thinking about the roof. You had been setting money aside for something you hoped wouldn't happen while knowing it would. That is a new cognitive mode. It is called deferred reckoning. Wealthy people live in it constantly. You did not have access to it before you owned something that demanded it. The habit it builds is this: you stop thinking only about what things cost to acquire. You begin thinking about what things cost to maintain, to exit, to hold through a bad year. You apply this to your car, to your career, to the relationships that have ongoing costs you had been ignoring because the invoice never arrived in a single lump sum. The fourth thing real estate teaches you is patience as a return. You bought the property for $247,000. $2 years in, Zillow shows an estimated value of $261,000. This does not feel significant. You are not planning to sell. You are learning that appreciation is not a faucet. It is a tide, slow, indifferent to your timeline, entirely real. By year 4, the estimate is $298,000. Your mortgage balance is $221,000. Your equity position is $77,000. You put $49,000 down. You did not manufacture $28,000 in equity through effort. You manufactured it through time and the decision to hold when nothing dramatic was happening. This is the lesson that compounds beyond money. You stop expecting outcomes to arrive on your schedule. You start asking a different question, not when will this work, but am I positioned for when it does? You begin applying this to your index fund contributions during a down market. You do not check the balance daily anymore. You know what daily checking produces: anxiety with no corresponding action. Instead, you contribute, you hold, you let time do the arithmetic. Real estate trained you to trust a process that does not send progress reports. The fifth thing real estate teaches you is that leverage, used correctly, is the only tool that multiplies time. You refinance in year 5, rates have shifted. You pull $40,000 in equity out of the property. This feels strange the first time. You are borrowing against something you own. It seems circular. Then you run the math and the strangeness dissolves. You take the $40,000 and use it as a down payment on a second property. A small single-family rental 3 miles away. You now control 2 assets. Their combined value is over $500,000. Your initial capital was $49,000. The bank lent you the difference. The tenants are paying down the mortgages. The assets are appreciating with or without you. You are 34 years old and you have figured out something that took your parents their entire working lives to approximate. Leverage is not debt. Debt is what you carry when nothing is working. Leverage is debt assigned to a productive asset that services itself. The distinction is everything. One destroys, the other compounds. You stop seeing debt as the enemy. You start seeing undeployed equity as the missed conversation. The money sitting still inside the walls of a building you could be using to build something else. You become allergic to idle capital, not recklessly, surgically. The sixth thing real estate teaches you cannot be calculated. You are walking through the second property, the one you bought with the pulled equity. The tenant has lived there for 2 years. She keeps the yard cleaner than you would. There are plants in the window, a welcome mat that was not there when you bought the place. You stand in the driveway for a moment. You think about the version of yourself that was sitting in a beige office signing documents he did not fully understand. The version that drove to the duplex afterward and sat in the car outside and thought, what have I done? What you did was buy time, not the property. The time that comes from income that arrives whether you are paying attention or not. The time that comes from equity that grows in the background of your actual life. The time that comes from having options. From being the person who can absorb a $14,000 roof without it rewriting your month. Real estate does not make you rich quickly. It does not make anything easy. What it does is install a different operating system, one that runs on patience, reserve thinking, system design, and the quiet understanding that the people who build real wealth are not the ones who found the fastest path. They are the ones who committed to a slow process that most people abandoned before it showed them anything. The gutters on the north side of the duplex still need work. You have a contractor coming Thursday. You have been an owner for 6 years, you are still learning. That is, it turns out, the point.